Happy Friday, everyone. We are here for Friday the 15th of May. It is round 10. We're into double figures. I'm Warnie, coach of the Warn Dogs, and I'm here with Drew Jones.
Coach of the Mountain Goats, host of Goat Fantasy podcast. Warnie, hello to you, mate.
Flying Goat Fantasy, 100K listens. Nice work, mate.
Yeah. No, milestone. It's nice. We've got 200 downloads on the first podcast, which was about Josh Dacos playing as a defender. So we've got to 100 in double the time we got to 50. So we're moving in the right direction. So
that's awesome. Now, moving in the right direction, we had a big game of footy last night, and that was the Lions and the Cats, and probably shocked most of us with the Cats actually dominating. They were very good with a 41-point win. In that probably isn't surprising, although it was to Cow because he said not to do it, and that was Baz Lenker-Smith, a VC on him with the 157. So he was the talking point for me out of that. But the talking point for most coaches might have been what happened pre-game. We got the text messages were going live last night from Goat, and that was to say that Dane Zorko was a laid out, managed as is the call for most laid outs at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. So I honestly sent that text more for you guys just to be ready post show, because I know there's always that scramble you guys have doing your teams and then Thursday night footy. So I wanted to make sure it was the first thing you saw when you got off air, but luckily you saw it on air, which is great because a few people got a reminder out of that. But, geez, chaos on Thursday night. Doesn't happen that often that we get genuine, like we had the Dacos, fitness test laid out, which definitely caused a bit of consternation. I guess someone put it in perspective for me last night, I think, where Zorko was such great value this week. Mm-hmm. But if he had have played that game, with a sore calf or, some sort of niggle or whatever, he probably would have had reduced game time, probably wouldn't have scored well, and it would have just been a terrible pick for this week. I still think Zorko is going to be a great long-term selection if you're brave enough to go there. And some people will be put off by the fact that he's been laid out, because exactly what you've been talking about all week, Warnie, which is that can we trust the 37-year-old off the calf? But we've dodged a massive bullet here. Like if he was sore going into the game, he would have got reduced minutes, probably a crap score, and then his price goes even further down and we lose money. So it's all worked out.
Is there any intel into it? Like, is it the calf, do you think, or have we been told anything yet?
Still just all I know is managed, but it's something I can follow up on over the weekend.
Well, Nasai was managed last week as well.
Well, exactly. So managed doesn't mean much. But yeah, maybe we can go there. We could potentially go there next week, but also we have every right to be sceptical going forward. But I think we've dodged a bullet.
Well, the pivot is on. So as I mentioned before, Baz Lenker was the top scorer with a beast because these Cats did rack up pretty well. We saw Sean Manor kick 5 goals, so he did that with 30 disposals. And the points were there. Tom Stewart had a 95, but there might be a small concern for him that we saw at the end of the game, maybe a little bit of a hammy. So that's one to watch for mostly draft owners, I would say, with him. But, that one's going to be sitting there. But he was great with 28 touches and 7 marks. And then Maxi Holmes, that defender status could be incoming with his 91, but not sort of blowing his numbers out of the park of late, really, with his scoring. Interesting. Tanner Bruin, was he ever in your plans to trade out? Because he was for us, and I ended up doing it last night. And if it wasn't for I think it was 21 points basically in time on in the last quarter that he ended up scoring there, I was feeling okay with it. But then when you see a 91 next to it, it's not a great move.
I think he was always going to get a reasonable score last night, just with the changes they made. You are ranked pretty high up, Warnie, so it's not surprising that you were in the luxurious position that you could trade Tanner. He's like my 4th best midfielder, so he's one of my premiums. So he was never going to be traded out of the Mountain Goats. But his role is it's a bit of a yo-yo with him, isn't it? Because he's definitely thrown around a little by Chris Scott, which means that, if you're in a position to move him, it's not a bad move, and you can get him up to a pretty consistent midfielder. Holmes has been annoying. Yeah. Seemed like in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, he was going to be like a top 8 mid, like the game style really suiting him, but he just hasn't kicked on. And yeah, if you've got Baz right now, even if he wasn't your VC, I think you're still feeling pretty good.
Yeah, feeling good with that one. And just a couple of other names there. So we did mention, so Bruin probably boosted there he did have 22 CBA. So he actually had, he was second in line there behind Baz Lenker for the clock in the middle. Did have low time on ground in the first half, but then played a fair bit out in the second. But Graham Myers came back in. So scored a 54 up, which means that his price might be coming down a little bit. But I don't know if I could go there with this this doubt or this ACL or potential whatever it is that he's got going on.
No, I think it's a no.
It's a ticking time bomb. Then let's look at the line. So obviously Zorko was out, but Wilmot, he's been in some nice form at the moment. So he had 30 disposals and was sort of in the kick-in world back there, taking 5 of them, scored 110. Levi was the Ashcroft that had the points this week with a 104 because we saw that Will down a bit, 74, so he probably hasn't been the greatest of selections in the last couple of weeks. And talking about greatest of selections or not so great selections, we have to mention Hugh McCluggage. So he's got a 52, and I guess the flags were there that he might have copped that tag, but he didn't really cop any attention in the game.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? And so I was chatting to this guy at work who he loves his super coach. He's doing quite well, and he's a Brisbane fan, and he calls him Hugh McDamage.
Yeah.
Supposedly that's like the internal McDamage is his nickname because of his ability to go inside to out. And we saw in the grand final how good he can be when he's let off the chain. But just hasn't seemed quite himself. I mean, if we're really honest with ourselves, there's never been a game this season where we've gone, oh, gee, like Hugh's tearing it apart. Coming off the injury, it was always going to be a slower burn. And I think for the price, the move made total sense. But, yuck. That's all I can say. It was not a tag situation. It was just that the Brisbane Lions got absolutely smashed in the middle.
Yeah, about 15,000 coaches have brought him in the last 2 weeks. I think it was even 2,000 last night. So, very, very disappointing on that one. That's got to hurt with that. Otherwise, that's probably about all we need to talk about with these teams. Zach Bailey saved himself a little bit with a 77, but, there's a couple of weeks in a row where we thought he'd be that 90-plus guy, and he hasn't really shown that at all those last couple. So, yeah, it's tough, but a tough night for the Lions. So I'm sure they're not going to cop it like that moving forward. Well, let's hope not. Anyway, let's move into round 10. We've got 8 more games to come. We've got a couple tonight. So this is where we get set up with the Sydney and Collingwood game. That's at the SCG, a 7:30 start for this one. Charlie Curnow is back in with Tom McCartan and also Jai Sarong. So the holders there will be happy to have him back, especially in a Collingwood matchup, which should be pretty good. McLean's been omitted. Rampy's been managed and Matt Roberts is out injured. With the Pies having 4 changes because Darcy Moore's got that concussion, we see that Darcy Cameron is also out, which is going to make things very interesting. We can talk to Brodie Grundy in a moment. Pat Lipinski is out injured, and this was the management game for Pendle, so he can do his record-breaking game next week at the G against the Eagles. But Parker, West, Allen and Hayes are the ins there. So Cameron is the big one because that's meaning that, not that he hasn't been doing a fair bit of ruck, but Steen is the man that will be holding the fort down there. Brodie Grundy, just a walk-up VC for us.
I think so. I don't think we need to overthink this. I think Steen you can roll out as an F6.
Yep.
I think you can have confidence in him. He's shown he can score even like a 70 or an 80 as a dual ruck. So small ground at the SCG. If he lays a few tackles, he should get a reasonable score. And Darcy Cameron's interesting because his partner is pregnant.
Right.
There's a possibility that he'll miss another game depending on the timing. Yeah, so this is not a guaranteed 1 weeker. But
you wouldn't have wanted to draft him in the first round of the Dry Bones Cup, would you?
Well, you can. I understand your thinking. You didn't know that Oscar Steen was going to come in and be the centre bounce ruckman.
No.
Yeah, that's rough. Well, my first round pick is on my injured reserve, so I'm not doing much better. But yeah, so it's just one to watch. But knowing how these things work, the baby would have to come probably on the Friday or the Saturday for him to miss if he's fit enough to play. So it's unlikely that he misses 2, but it is a possibility. I think the week off with the ankle was always kind of planned.
Yep.
And it looks like
because we were sweating almost probably this time last week anyway.
Yeah. I think and he said on radio that he has a minor syndesmosis.
Oh, wow, right.
Which is yeah, that's a 2 to 6 week injury.
Yeah.
So, yeah, played through it last week in the hope that they could take it up to the Cats, probably knowing that they were going to rest him into the 6-day break against Sydney. So he gets the week off, but there's no guarantee he's back necessarily straight away. But I don't think you need to overthink the Grundy thing. It seemed like on paper this was a good chance to bring in Laddams, but they haven't done it, so he must be feeling good.
Yep, well, that's all right. In this, let's hope that Nick can do his thing. However, he probably cops that James Jordan tag.
Yeah, and I think we just all have to cop it on the chin. I don't like Jordan hasn't been absolutely strangling the life out of all his opponents. And Nick's, as we know, one of the best in the business. So yeah, we just hope for the best, and we're obviously not VCing it. So yeah, just got to cop it.
Moving into the other game, which is in Darwin, that is Gold Coast against Yardapooty. So that's our Port Adelaide name for Sir Doug Nicholls round. That's an 8:10 start, Eastern Time. So we've got for the Suns, Zeke Hewland is in with Holman, Jed Walder and Matt Rowell is there. They're out. Ben Jepson's been omitted, but then injuries for Long, Reed and Alex Davies. The Power have Asava Radaglia, Will Lorenz, and as the elocution man that has to say these names on TV, Tom is in with
Anastasopoulos.
Nice work.
Anastasopoulos, yeah. Well, I had a chat with David Zeta about this because he has Maltese and Italian heritage.
Ah, nice, yep.
And I was saying Anastasopoulos. Anastasopoulos is the right way to say it.
Right.
But yes, he's only 176 centimetres, I believe. Like he's a little pocket rocket. So
with the name that long, you'd think he'd be tall.
Exactly. He seems like he's going to be like Giannis. Yeah, that's right. That's where your brain goes because we got the Visadinis and But no, he's a little man. So let's have a look at him this week. But I'm not sure he's going to be the massive fantasy scorer that we want. But this, I think, when we look at this game, we're just wondering how is the Darwin weather going to affect our scoring for, most likely our Suns players that we've got in our team.
And if you go back to it last week, it's interesting, Noble didn't have any issues. And to start with, Petrarca was looking on fire, but then scored an 80 in the end. So, yeah, it's always that one we've had it flagged for years, I guess, that we don't love it. And we probably see that. It's almost circled in our fantasy calendars of going, it's one that we stay away from. We had our Rat Pasta combo that had their 20s that week.
Is Noble a legitimate alternative to Zorko, or is the buy too close?
The buy's the issue for me, I reckon, with that one. And but his numbers, it's showing that. I wonder if, I don't know, it's the part of that fantasy brain that goes sometimes, I've missed these or I've missed that value sort of thing that he could be. But I tell you what, those numbers are awesome there. And there's still that little Dimmer Hardwick sort of factor there of what they do with their players, and the spread of fantasy scores is probably a little bit of a thing.
Yeah, I think traditionally, like between Joel Jeffrey and Noble and Dan Rioli and, whether it been Buderick or whoever else playing back there, they've just all got 80s.
Yeah.
Like 75, 80. But Noble, it just feels like in the last few weeks has just become the guy.
Yeah.
But Rioli's scoring the last 2 weeks has also been quite good. To the point where it's like, he's 700K. Like, could we do something funky with him? So Mac Andrews' scoring is also up. So maybe there's just this trend that Gold Coast have been chipping it around the back line.
Bodie Hewland had his time as well at one point, so that's another one that you can sort of throw in there as well. Yeah, so interesting. It's just a do not touch sort of thing for me. Just on the outs there, we do have Miles Bergman, who is missing a few weeks, so unlucky if anyone went there. Hopefully you got your time on ground to help you out a little bit with that one last week if you did go there. But it's very unlucky, and he will be gone for, it was a few weeks, wasn't it? That one ended up being,
I think it's 10 to 12.
Yeah. So,
he's out for a while.
Yeah. Josh Lowe was injured also. Jacob Ware omitted. Moving into Saturday, it is Goanna, that is the Crows, up against North Melbourne. That's happening at Adelaide Oval. Early game in the afternoon there. Dusty Fogarty is in with Jordan Butts. Hugh Bond's been omitted, as well as Nick Murray omitted too. No changes for the Roos. Lachlan McAndrew had a little bit of doubt this week because he wasn't on the track, but can't be too much of a drama.
No, I think it was just a management thing. I know that did set off a few alarm bells with people, but I mean, if we go to training and you see players doing manage load or
Yep.
or not doing sessions for whatever reason. And it's understandable that but also it's understandable that he would have a session off. This is the first time he's had such a big AFL related workload. But he's been great. It's been fun to ride him, and hopefully he goes well again.
And you keep riding him. Now the riding question might be Josh Rochelle, who has been named on the ball for this week. Obviously the role's sort of gone, as we've been looking at and seeing, and it's been Rankin who's picked that up. What's your read? What are you feeling? What are you sensing in this?
If I was in a position to do a trade like this, I would want to move him to a player who's got a late buy.
Yep.
I think if you can move, because Rochelle to Petrarca feels like a move that I've seen people want to pull off, and I'm like, well,
it'd be nice, but
but then you're losing Petrarca in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But if you could extend this out and get a player in who's got a later buy, who has a more prominent role, I can see why you would do it. And this is just, I said this earlier in the week, because there's no rookies.
Yeah.
Like there's no one we want to trade down to. If this is the week where you're going to shuffle a couple and get players in better roles, in better form, better situations, I think this is the week to do it. So if you want to bring in Jack Ross, who's got the good buy, if you want to bring in Sparrow or Durham or whatever, and shift him sideways and roll the dice, every chance Rochelle does well this week because Rankin's going to get tagged. And maybe Simpkin and Foss both do jobs on Adelaide players, and Rochelle is the one that gets released. But yeah, if you want to roll the dice, I can see why people are doing it.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Like, say, I like the Durham option as one there if you were doing that move. But what does it allow you to do is probably half the problem on the thing, because we don't have the rookies to do anything with us. And the forward line isn't the place that you've got confidence in, I guess, investing in even top end or middle end, really. That's probably the other side of it. So, yeah, interesting in this game, I reckon. We'll just sort of see how that rolls out, because North Melbourne have been restrictive with that, and it's not just necessarily on the fact that they do have those couple of tags that they can deploy. It seems like they're stopping points across the board a little bit. All right, moving in to Anam, so that's our Ds, up against Hawthorn. Trent Rivers is back after a bit of time out, injury twos, and so is Daniel Turner. Manise Wakefield, your boy, is out, omitted after being laid in last week. And my man, Caleb Windsor. So while everyone else might have been stressing about the Dane Zorko stuff, I'm going, shit, this is not good, because he's got no coin on his head. Well, not enough anyway to be doing stuff. And I'd actually converted him from being one of the players that I've been calling a rookie recently to, oh yeah, he's not in my rookie count now. And so now he's out with that toe, which we did see last weekend, but I don't think I gave that another thought after writing the notes on podcast on Monday and hadn't sort of tracked that at all. And so then we get that news last night.
Not ideal. So Demons playing Hawthorn. So what are your thoughts on Carl Amon?
People like him. His numbers have been great too. And yeah, this is the thing. Hawthorn are scoring a lot of points. And this was probably the thing that we've noticed over the last couple of years, that they're not a fantasy relevant team because of they're just not, we don't have the big dog scoring or anything like that. But they are scoring a lot now. They are spreading them. But now maybe we are seeing some of these players step up and be able to post fantasy numbers for us.
So my question is, I've had Amon sitting in my team for a lot of the week. Is it smarter or is it playing the game the right way to get an Amon instead of going all the way up to a Whitfield or whatever? Because their output over the last 3 weeks has been pretty much the same.
So sort of that game theory type stuff at that, yep. So 883K. So you're making some coin with what you're going to be doing from your Nasiah. I like them a lot, even just for the sense of, it's that round 14 buy. At least it's in the, do you want to call it back half? Anyway, at least in the middle of the buys. It's sort of there in a spot that can work for that as well. I think that's one of those things. You're not buying into a super early buy or anything like that. But yeah, at that price, break even of 60, I don't think things can go too wrong, if you want to say that, off the back of. So it's been 119, 113, 114. Before that it was a 62, but then even an 86 sitting there and an 81. Like, he's not priced a lot higher than those 80s, is if you want to think about it in that way. So with the three massive scores on the back there, worst case scenario, he's going to make a few dollars for you. He'll do his job, and if you want to take it into the upcoming fixtures, you've got the Ds who do give up points for defenders, so that should be there. Crows, not so much, but then you've got, during the buys, you might get some pop scores there, or ahead of his buy. In round 12, it's the Saints, and then it is the Bulldogs. So a pretty favourable draw.
Yeah, and there's, Sicily is also nicely priced. He doesn't have the same, recent scoring that Amon does, but he comes a little cheaper. He would be an option for you as well. I like the flexibility that you would get at that buy, because if it hadn't worked out, then you can take someone up. You can take him up.
Yep. You've got half a dozen teams.
Whitfield or an Ash or whatever who've had to buy the week before. So there's a few options there. So I've said it already this week. I think Amon was affected by the knee early in the season. So was sore, ended up they gave him a week off. And since he's come back into the team, his scoring's been good. So I quite like the Amon move. And I think you can't go too wrong with it. From a D's perspective, if you're forward line hunting, do we still feel the same about Cozzy Pickett after last week?
Well, it was pretty hard to take, but I don't know. How do you read that one as well? Like, was he a bit rattled after that initial bump there on Big Waterman, or Watermelon, as the Triple M team like to call it?
I think the combo of potentially that moment and a good Brady Hoff tag, what Hoff did better than whoever else has tagged him this season is they've got the transition from midfield to forward better. Yep. And he's a better defender. He's a defender by trade.
Yeah.
So I think as an all-round tagging move, Hoff did a great job, and Cozzy clearly wasn't himself, whether that was just the bump or whatever else was going on. Hard to take as someone who put the captaincy on him. But that's what we do out in the 30,000s. We take undue risk.
So with Cozzy then on that, like, does he have anyone that goes to him? Because we'll look at the Hawks changes there. So Nash is out. Not that Nash would have been an epic matchup, although Nash can do just about anything, even though he's a man mountain that can
I think it's Finn.
Everyone. Yeah,
if anyone's doing
Finn
it,
is in. Yep,
it's Finn.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, Sam Mitchell. Once in a post-game presser, he said that they tried 6 players on Nasiah, and I don't think he tried anyone. So yeah, he can be a little hard to read when it comes to tagging. But
one other thing out of this game, good news. Bodie Ryan held his spot on the half-back flank for you.
No, and I promise you I wasn't celebrating when I read that Scrimshaw hurt his knee at training.
I didn't know that.
I didn't react because I'm not a bad person.
A little goat glint in your eye.
I think when Barras went out, it was always going to be safe that Bodie was going to hold his spot. Yeah. Again, I'll reiterate this. I don't think he played badly. He just didn't have a good fantasy game. Also, I'm pretty sure he had more possessions than that. I think they were given to Cam McKenzie because they look exactly
very much so. They did poke up a couple of times.
So similar. Or maybe it was just because Paps was calling Bodie Ryan with the ball. I kept looking at his score being like, he's had more possessions than that. Anyway, he'll bounce back this week.
He'll have 50 plus this week. Lock it in.
I reckon.
Lock it in.
Yep.
All right, Saturday night we've got the Blues, who have a new coach, or an interim coach there, in Josh Fraser after Vossi stood down, up against the Dogs. Jack Ison's in for debut, and Adam Sard is out injured, whereas the Dogs have Lobb, Emmett and Davidson in, with Timmy English with that concussion that may not even just be this week, out, with Gallagher and Lockie Smith omitted.
Yeah, so if you're worried about Nick Newman, I think the Sard out, Ison in
helps.
Is pretty much confirmation he will play in defence the entire game. So that's good news. I didn't like when Gary Lyon suggested on 360 they should throw Nick Newman forward. I don't know. I don't like that.
Where do you see, even with some of this too, like, the aging players, like with a interim coach here and looking at the future, surely he's safe though, isn't he?
In terms of in the team?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely is. Yeah, like that's to consider Nick Newman to be out of that side that's not a possibility. I'm on the biggest interest for me is to see what they do with the midfield, to see if George Hewitt goes back in full time, how he treats Jagger, what he does with Chera. That's the most interesting thing for me. So Carlton's a watch this week. Like if Cripps comes out and smashes a 120 and looks like a new man, he could be like a budget premium we could look at. Like there's some moving parts here. Let's just hope that Sam Walsh scores well. Because we've been leaning on him all year. It would be nice to at least get through to their bye.
Yep. Bontwatch hasn't needed to really happen after scoring 140 last week, but
he's fine.
He's just that's him. That's what we're going to see, and this should be a pretty good game for him, you would think, coming off the back of his form last week. And if they're just managing him throughout the week, he's going to get himself up for game day massively, I'd think. So that sub-$1 million price tag for him is a bargain, and there's no problems with him being the number one most traded in player.
So you a yes? If someone said, I can move Nasiah, with Sarong into the back line or something, you're a yes, go for get Bont?
I am. I guess it team dependent if you want to talk that with what you've got with the rest of your side and who that means you're playing and all that sort of stuff with your DPP switches and that. But yeah, 100%. I think he is the guy. I'd prefer to be getting Bont this week than I'm getting Whitfield, for example. I'd prefer to be getting Bont at that price as well. It just feels like a bit of a no-brainer.
I think him and Zorko were the two best value premiums in the game, and I don't have an issue with it. But you just got to understand you're buying into a little bit of risk.
Yep.
But he's been playing well, so there's no reason to feel like he's going to knock out a bad score. English, I think a lot was made of Bevo yesterday, the way that he answered the questions.
Yeah.
What I find is he can come in a bit cold in a presser if he gets a negative question first up.
Right.
And they went straight to English. I don't think he was quite ready to answer that off the bat. I've been told that he's doing okay.
Okay, good. That's good because he's obviously had those issues over the years. The week might help him as well after coming back from that knee as well.
Yeah, there's a possibility that he misses more than one game for sure.
Yeah,
but there's no need for panic.
If you were an owner though, you would try to move that on. If you might have had your McAndrew as your R3 still and were rolling with that, you'd still move him, would you, and try to get to a Grundy or a LJ?
You have to trade him. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm more talking in a larger football, real life sense.
And plenty of us have him in a draft as well, so hopefully he's back for us, rocking and rolling out there. On Sunday, let's move to the Bombers against Walyalup. So that is the Dockers there. That's a 110 game at the MCG. This is Archie Perkins Day. And we're going to see Ben Mackay back in. Will Setterfield's into the squad with Gresham, Sardis, Caldwell. Zach Johnson's out injured. And unfortunately, my man Dyson Sharp, who looked like a smashing pig last week, was looking good, and then this is what fantasy does. But hopefully he sounds like it's 5 or 6 week type thing, and they're going to strengthen. But if not, we know we've got it's a tick with that pick, I think, for the Bombers there after some not so great first round picks over the last few years. For the Dockers, they have got Oscar McDonald, Christian Scarry, Nathan O'Driscoll, Sharp, Banfield, Davies all into the squad with a few bigger names here out, injured. So Wags of Dog's one of them, but also Alex Pearce and Hayden Young. So that was a concussion picked up at training, I believe.
Yeah, training on Tuesday and then delayed concussion symptoms. So he's missing 2 games, which sucks for the Dockers. And yeah, I guess there'd be people in Supercoach and probably draft who have got him. Unfortunately, it's a shame, and it certainly hurts the Dockers' prospects. Because he's been such a pivotal player for them. So you said Archie Perkins Day. I assume you mean Archie Roberts.
Oh, Archie Roberts. Sorry, did I say Perkins?
It's like you're very confident in your...
it could be his day anyway. Who knows?
Yeah. So you're thinking getting the C on Roberts is the way to go.
Yeah, so I'm rolling the VC tonight in Grundy, and then he'll be my backup because, we did have that 80 the week before, but anybody that can just pig around and do that, even if it is Freo or whatever, I think that it's a pretty easy one for us to go with. And the thing is, that price, should people pay it at the moment and go to him? Is that an Nasiah move if you have the ability?
As weird as it is, going like a Sarong down to a rookie and Naz up to Archie Roberts, it pretty much is one up, one down. Because Archie Roberts is in like this whole other sphere where like he can knock out a 140, 150, 160. So I think you got to do it. Yep. I reckon is Cal and Roy both doing that this week?
They are, and they're sort of almost breaking things to do it a little bit at times. They could make these smarter aim-on-like decisions, but I think it's one of those ones. It's that enjoyment in footy, which is another one like a bit like a Baz Lenker. Like it goes against a lot of things that we say and the way we think about the game, and it was the right call to pay up for him. I went back in the day; it was parish up to him, and I was probably spending too much, and it would go against a lot of wisdom in the game, but it's been a knockout pick to be able to do that, and I think that Archie's probably in that stratosphere as well, maybe.
Just thinking like back in the day when Selby was at the peak of his powers, and he would purposely avoid all these high-scoring, expensive players. Like the amount of willpower it takes and the resilience to sit through that. You
just can't watch the games. You can't watch the game if you're sitting there.
And Roy almost got himself arrested talking about how he responds when Archie Roberts gets the ball.
The only time we've had to edit that podcast in years, I reckon.
So did he say that? This is a little bit niche for those people who are listening. Did he say that in the Sunday Patreon program?
He may have even said it there, but he said it on.
No, he did, because I heard it.
Yeah, so on the Monday podcast, and
you edited it out Monday.
Had to edit that little bit. Basically says, and it was, Roy doesn't hit his kid, but it was like going, when he's yelling out to him, makes me want to hit him, he said. And that was a little bit that we clip up that ends up going on the chopping block video on the AFL website as well. So I thought, that's probably a little bit too much. But anyway, it was an interesting comment. We just thought, play it very safe. But that's the worst thing. And is like, everyone understands exactly what Roy was saying there too, even in the sense of going, if you are, and this is probably those two with me as well, talking about Archie Roberts, if you just keep hearing it and seeing it, it takes away any enjoyment from viewing football at all.
Yeah, and then I'm sort of straddling that line in Supercoach. I've gone up about 35,000 ranks in the last 2 weeks. My team's doing quite well, but I don't have Archie Roberts. And as soon as you get to that point where you're like, okay, my team is good, but I don't have that superstar, there's like a huge amount of FOMO to be like, I need to get him. But in Supercoach, as you well know, it's once they get up to that high price, they're really hard to get into your team. So anyway, if you can make it work this week, I think he's a must-have. Caldwell's back.
Yep.
Warney. And that affects a few things. Any concern with him being back in for Durham?
Could be. Yep, Durham's, again, the team sheets, but named on the ball. I think that's been working for them well, that defensive side of his game as well, that does work as part of that. I think he's that different string to the bow of that midfield at the moment, which I think, as a Bomber supporter, I've enjoyed seeing.
Yeah, I think it's been a good move. He's a good player. The only thing with Durham is he's never been a fantasy player. He's good in real life. But the scoring's been reasonable for where he's priced, so I think we can tick that off.
If you're buying into him, you're expecting that sort of 85 to 90. That's his sort of, what you'd like to be getting from him. Yes, you want to be getting more, but I think that's where your realistic expectations should be of him for that upside.
All right, let's get to the Tigers game, because this is what I really want to talk about.
Here we go. So Saints and Tigers. So Euroke, and that is against Richmond. Banfield, Hasty, Higgins into the squad for the Saints. Grills back in after being laid out last week for Tigers, with Fawcett, Caleb Smith, Samson Ryan, and Noah Roberts-Thompson for a debut. Tom Brown is out injured after that shoulder early on in the game, and was that a shoulder or was it a forearm? Sorry. That was
arm,
And Kane McAuliffe also out injured. You're right. What do you want to know, or what do you want to see in this game?
All right. Noah Bolter.
Right.
Talk me out of it.
Well, defender forward status. Playing a ruck role.
595.
Yep.
Now, Curvis has had a setback with his hamstring.
Yeah.
So it was going to be 6 to 8. It's been pushed back further. So he is going to be, you would think, playing in that role for a reasonable amount of time. If they were to bring Samson Ryan in along with the young basketballer, then you'd have to jump ship. Yep. But as it stands, you could go. So like I talked about Buderick earlier in the week, and I don't think he is the worst option. I know you don't like it, but I think for that price, with this defender forward status, with the later buy with the Bulldogs, I think there's some merit to it with his break even.
If you're playing it for that that thing. I think it's that timing. Yep. My negativity is probably more about the fact that how long are you going to end up with him for? If you can play this over the next 5 weeks, that would be nice.
So, I mean, really, the same argument can be made for Bolter.
100%.
Because, but he's just priced 120K cheaper. So, if I'm looking at, can I move Farrow? Can I move Blackiston? Can I get a rookie that's never going to play that I just want to get off to Bolter, who I feel like I can play on field? Am I crazy?
No. With a break-even of 27, and, well, we see what he's been able to do. Like, he hasn't even really needed, he's got that sort of ruck roll or pseudo-ruck roll, the 119.78 the last couple. It depends on who he's replacing. That's probably the thing. If you were stuck in a bad world of a bad F6, it's a play, definitely.
Well, for me, it would be you could play Bill Myers.
Yeah.
Or you could play Angry Anderson or Rechko, or you roll the dice on trying to get a good score out of Bolter. That's where it's at.
And I guess the thing with Bolter is that you are probably, the floor is a bit higher in this role. That's probably what you're banking this in as well.
That's the hope. But cheap for a reason.
Yeah. He had a 40 a couple of weeks ago.
He could play as a full-time key back, and then he's terrible. But there's just that feeling of there's no rookies to go to, low break even, higher ceiling. Goodbye. Best 18 scoring, not that far away.
You can hide behind that.
And we know that Nank's out, and they've got issues with availability. Samson Ryan sucks. Sorry, mate, if you're listening. I doubt you are. And the young basketballer, he's not going to be able to carry the ruck. So there's a few boxes to tick.
Yeah. Maybe.
Just a thought.
The other one I want to flag out of here, if you're considering it, Jack Sinclair, I think, should be a nice option for Nasai if you were doing that, or you don't have him. I think he might be the one that could benefit a little bit here. This matchup is obviously a nice way to be going in it as well. That sort of gives you that little bit of instant reward. And obviously Nasai out for 3. There's the buy in there and all of that too that sort of makes him, probably have a good little run at it, I would say.
Everyone keep an eye on Taranto in this game, because I think I like him as an upgrade. You can get a crappy rookie within a 1 up, 1 down to Taranto to play him through the buys. So let's all collectively as a team watch Taranto and see how he looks.
Cool. Last game. Well, at Marooa, they're your Eagles up against the Giants. It's a 6:15 game at Optus Stadium, so 4:15 over there in the West. Williams, Bazzo, that's Jack Williams, by the way. Gross, Allen, and Matt Flynn are into the squad. Pride Harry Edwards with that concussion after he got split open by Elliot Yeo. He's out with that. And Cooper Duff-Tytler has been managed. The Giants, no outs for them as yet, but into the squad. Callum Brown, Ryan Angwin, and Harrison Oliver for a possible debut. We will see all of these Sunday teams at 5 o'clock when they drop there with the changes. What are you looking at for your Eagles? Would you pick an Elliot Yeo is one of my questions.
No, right. You don't pick Eagles. And I've even been surprised how much love you've given McCarthy a lot of love this week. I've got him in draft.
Yeah.
He has been better the last few weeks, and against the Giants, he'll probably score well. I just think a long-term commitment to a West Coast player is very risky. Yeah. We are a bad. We're going to have those weeks where
an 80 is their top score, aren't we?
Yeah.
Lockie Whitfield, is he my answer? Are you happy for me to be picking him up this week after you not tricked everyone, that you gave people flags last week to look at with the Wit, who then said, there's nothing wrong with my little Achilles or whatever I was icing?
I just couldn't in good conscience allow what I saw to be unreported.
Go through to the keeper. This is what you
couldn't do it.
This is GOAT Fantasy 101.
But yes, he apologies to those who became rattled and didn't get him, because he was absolutely fine. And I said, here's what happened. The club says he's fine. You make your own judgments.
Facts.
But yes, great buy, great player, great matchup this week. And I think he's got maybe another good 1 or 2 to come, maybe.
Yep.
But yes, Lockie Ash, I think, because he's playing midfield, is a bit more unpredictable. And he didn't look great in the midfield last week. Scored most of his points when he floated back. So I think Whitfield's the way to go. And then Callahan is the other one if you're brave enough, still well priced. We just haven't seen the ceiling
yet,
yet
have we? Yeah,
from Finn. Yeah. Yep. And look, the Eagles may well use Hoff or someone to try and run with him because he is so damaging. He's the kind of player that tears us apart.
Yeah.
He's too quick, too strong. Yeah, exactly the kind of player that we don't have. And GWS made us look real silly last year in the corresponding fixture. So I'm a bit concerned about this game. I think the Giants are going to go well.
It's going to be an awesome round, a big round here, the first of our Sir Doug Nicholls rounds. We get a fortnight of that. We get to see the awesome jumpers. We get to see the awesome things on display. And hopefully we see some awesome fantasy scores. Let's hope so. So, Goats locked in with...
Nothing's locked in. Nothing's locked in. So Amon, thinking about Amon, but I can as high as Whitfield. And then, on the bottom ends, I could save some cash for next week. I could go Bolter. I could even try another mid-pricer. There's a lot I could do. I could get Durham as a midfielder, and sort of have him floating around as a value player. So there's a few moving parts. But look, you don't want to follow what I'm doing anyway. So this is all.
And I'll say you don't want to follow what I'm doing because I traded Bruin out, and that's to get my man Sully Roby in, which I needed to do that because there was no other move I could make that would allow me to get my man Windsor to anyone that I would be happy enough with. Yep. So that's sort of where my brain went. But maybe the way that you've talked me into Carl Amon, maybe I'm going to regret that now that I should have gone another rookie down. And
you're not going to regret getting
I need him. It's that buy, all of the stuff there that we've all been wanting. Anyway, Drew, thanks, mate. Let's follow everything at Goat Fantasy News to stay across all of the good things, including any late mail on Lockie Whitfield and that.
There'll be no late mail on Whitfield.
It's all facts. It's all facts. It's like when Calvin says, I just give you the facts. When he tells me this is what the Lions are doing to teams, and so this is why you don't want Bailey Smith to be your vice captain, because this is the stuff that's happening, and then gets it wrong. Anyway, that's okay.
I think we may have overthought that one. Baz on a Thursday night with a VC. That's just a slam dunk.
Anyway. Majestic. All right, thanks, mate. Have a good weekend.
Next week. On you, mate.